hello, 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 hello. Welcome to another video. In case you don't know me, my name is Melanie, and on my channel I talk about growing food in the tropics. And I've had a guava tree for a couple years now, and the first years it didn't have any signs of fruit fly worms or anything, but now it's completely infested with worms. In the winter it doesn't seem too bad, we don't find any worms at all, and I think that's because it's just colder. Maybe the worms died, maybe they don't like the cold, whatever it is. In the winter the guavas don't have worms, and now the guavas have two seasons where they produce in South Florida. One's in the winter obviously, and one's in the summer. So right now it's our summer season, and the summer season is full of worms. The fruit fly supposedly only lays eggs in ripe fruit. So you do not want to leave your guavas outside to fully ripen on the tree, because they for sure will be infested with worms. So you want to get them when they're a bit green, but not completely underripe, but not at their peak ripeness either. And another thing you do not want to do is let the guavas sit under the tree and just let them rot away. So if some of them fall for some reason, or they're bad or whatever it is, you have to pick them up and either burn them, dispose of them, blend them up and throw them in your compost. But you need to get rid of them, because if not, you're just gonna let the life cycle of the fly to keep going. We choose which guavas to harvest not because of a drastic change in color or anything, but from how easily they fall off when you pick them. So sometimes you go to pick them and they'll be really hard to pull off, and other times they'll just fall right in your hand. And that's what you want. You don't want to have to take out scissors to clip them or pull them really hard, but just from twisting them a little bit, they'll fall off. They say that the guavas won't have any worms if you get them when they're underripe and then you let them ripen inside. But I've noticed sometimes flies around our guavas inside. So I think that might be another issue, that you get them in and maybe they don't have flies, but then the flies come into your house and lay eggs and your guavas are full of worms. So you maybe want to put them in some sort of mesh container or something to keep the bugs out. We're not really doing any preventative things to prevent the fruit flies from putting eggs in the guavas, but we are able to salvage some of our guavas even if they have worms. And that's what I wanted to show you. In case you already have worms in your guavas and you haven't done anything to prevent them, what you can do with the guavas you already have. So I'm going to take you outside and show you the first step, which is harvesting your guavas. So I am back inside, and these are all the guavas I got just now. And there's a lot right here. And then these guavas are ones that we've picked probably in the last week. They've been sitting here in the house. The tree produces a lot of fruit, and it will have flowers, fruit, young fruit, ripening fruit all at the same time. So it's like a continuous harvest for a couple weeks to maybe a couple months. So after we soak our guavas, we take them out and let them ripen up, and then we cut away the bad parts that have the larvae from the fruit fly. And so I'm gonna get one that is obviously bad. So if you see this one, how the color is off compared to this one. And it's like really squishy right here. So this section here will definitely have some of the worms. And this whole guava might be bad. So we don't let them ripen too much, because if there is a worm, it'll just devour the whole fruit. So you see how the inside is sort of discolored in the center? That's how you can tell that there was a worm there. And there will also be holes. So right here, those little tiny holes, that's like an obvious sign too. So we normally just start cutting away until we get to a part that doesn't have any signs of damage. But sometimes there might not be. And the whole thing will be pretty bad. So this part right here is pretty good, the color and everything, and then compare it to this one. So it's a pretty obvious difference. And then this section shouldn't have any of the worms inside, but I'm just gonna double check. So the worms are normally not in the pulp in the center or in the outer flesh, but they're in between. So if you get a spoon and you scoop this out, then you can separate it. And there normally will be in between there. So then we would use the pieces that don't have worms to cook with, and then the pieces that do, we throw them out. And right here is a worm. I don't know if you can see it, but let me point it out. You can normally tell which ones, what they are, because they're like squirming around. But that's what they look like. Sometimes they're really small. This one's a big one. So all these sections, I would say they're bad. And this guava looks a bit better. It's starting to get a little bit soft, and it doesn't have any of those parts like how this one has it, that it's discolored. So I'm gonna cut this one. And here you can see, so the top right here looks good, but then the bottom has those holes that I was talking about. So I'm gonna start cutting away that part. So all these pieces so far don't have any worms. So here you can see the discolored part. There's like these holes in it, and then this part looks a lot better. So again, I'm gonna cut away that part. And then scoop this out. And then I check. But after you get a little bit of practice looking for them, then you could pretty much tell which ones will have worms and which ones won't. All of our guavas tend to have a bad part for the most part. So it would be a real shame if we just were to throw every single one away that has a worm. So look, this one is really obvious. So right there, there's a hole and this part looks fine. So we would freeze all of these parts if we don't have enough to make juice, but if not, we just go cut them and take out the bad parts and then throw them all into a blender and make juice with them. One thing I wanted to point out is that sometimes you'll see like fiber from the fruit, like these lines right there. Those aren't worms. If they're not moving, then they're not worms. So what we do is that we soak this whole thing in water and they'll drown. And then once they're dead, then you could throw them into your compost. So here's my bowl. And now I'm just gonna get all this and throw it in there to make sure that all the larvae dies and you don't continue the life cycle of the fruit fly. If you want to learn more about the guava, I have a post about it in my blog and I'm going to leave the link down below so you can check it out, and I post up a video once a week. So don't forget to hit the red subscribe button so you won't miss the next one. And leave a like and a comment and let me know if you are doing anything to prevent your guavas from getting affected by fruit flies, because I'm gonna go and try out different suggestions and see which one works best and let you guys know. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you next time. I don't know if you could hear that, but it just started raining. So that's a good sign because now I don't have to water my plants.